Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Herron. Welcome to Herron Galleries, and thank you for being here. Before we begin, I'd like to start by posing some questions to you. How are you connected to the lands and the waters in this place? How and why are the lands and waters here important to you? How and why might they have been, are, or will be important to others? This gallery is situated on the homelands of the Miamiaki, Lenape, Potawatomi, Sawanwa, Kaskaskia, and the Kickapoo peoples, who are the past, present, and future caretakers of this land. This area was also the home of a vibrant Black community that was displaced by the construction of IUPUI. And the Herron Galleries continue to facilitate educational forums and opportunities with, for, and by stakeholders, both on and off the IU Indianapolis campus. If you would like to learn more about those communities and explore some ways to show support, on the back of that handout that I see some of you have and is in front of the gallery space, we shared some resources on there. And I'd just like to thank the work of the Galleries Museum intern, Cal Demery, put into this first iteration of the gallery's land acknowledgement. When we first talked about developing something, we agreed that land acknowledgement is just the first step, important and necessary, but hollow without intention and action behind it. So we were trying to think of ways to promote engagement and action. This is what they came up with. And I encourage everyone to sit with those questions and explore those resources. And with that in mind, we are honored to host Alexandra McNichols-Torroledo, a Colombian-American photographer and activist whose collaborative practice centers long-term work with Indigenous communities across the Western Hemisphere. Since 2011, her projects have been grounded in relationship, reciprocity, and a deep commitment to Indigenous sovereignty, bringing visibility to struggles against colonial and climate injustice. Alexandria is the recipient of numerous awards, including a Pulitzer Center grant and the Colombian Ministry of Culture's Artist Trajectory Grant. Her work has been exhibited internationally and throughout Indiana, and she's the author of 4 photo books. She holds an MFA in photography from Indiana State University. And I'm really thrilled to have done this show together and really excited to hear more. And yeah, help me in welcoming Alexandra up here.
Thank you so much. I wanted to say, as I mentioned to you in the gallery, that due to the curator, and her understanding on how my work is addressing colonialism from past to present, this exhibition is today here, and I appreciate her understanding from my work. Thank you so much. Mm-hmm. Well, if I'm talking too loud, please let me know. This is a photograph of myself. I'm going to try to lower a little bit the volume. This is a photograph of myself with a 4x5 camera. When I travel to photograph, I'm going to lower. Jason, is that okay? Can you hear me? Mm-hmm. When I travel to photograph any community or any person that I wanted to portray, I travel usually with my 4x5 camera, a large format camera, but I also travel with my digital camera, nowadays my phones. And before Actually, I become the photographer that I am today. When I was a student, and most of you, I came with a very powerful project to Indiana State University, and I was accepted, and I became the most successful student that the department has had. This is the book I start with, Dream and Nightmares, in which actually doing a performatic of myself, I am revealing personal stories that talks about how I really crashed with the Indiana society that I saw in many ways repressive, but I've been living in Indiana. I'm a Hoosier since then, and I see nowadays this with a different vision. And then I have to remove myself and remove who I was as a person, being Colombian, being Latina, to be able to understand this society and to embrace a new Alexandra into art. And I use a lot of Mother Nature in this book, in which I'm only showing you a few images just to see just for you to see how my photography has evolved. And something that was very important for me, it was like, even then, we are talking about 2008 when I made this book, and I landed here in Indiana, where I never saw an Indigenous as you highlighted today, right? And actually, I was criticizing in this moment missionaries, how people use religions, no matter if it's Christianity or other religions, to manipulate Indigenous communities. And then I also, the previous one and this one are books that I make with actually my photography and my writing in poetry. And I'm showing these images because all are linked with something that I've been working for so long, and it's Mother Nature. So those images, that some of them, they were awarded, and it's a love story. They are representing part of my relationship with nature. And that was a quick introduction for you. But between 2008 and 2011, while I was a student at Indiana State University, I discovered something so important for my life, and it was this photographic process that allowed me to conceive photography not like a two-dimensional media, but like a three-dimensional media. And I developed this project entitled Stone Faces that you are seeing now. And I came up with the idea because I was working with the Mayas communities and studying the Maya art, and I realized that the Mayans were the first people that they were putting portraits on stones, and the Maya civilization only were putting, the most elevated elite into those portraits. But when I start working on the stone faces, because I am a Colombian and a Colombian woman that has been in immigration, I exiled myself from Colombia because of the continual war that is on my native country. So to start portraying immigrants and refugees became something very important in my life. And in 2011, while I was doing my third year at Indiana State University, I became famous for this concept of stelas photographic. Like stelas were actually the name that the Maya people used to be able to create these portraits. And I start with this beautiful onyx stone that actually I broke that by accident, and I put in this image a refugee, a descendant from the war on Korea, and I entitled this stone The Forgotten War. And because we are in ongoing situations of wars going on in daily basis, but some that they have been so extreme, and as we know, genocide, I was having an exhibition at Indiana University in the Cook Center when actually I made this stone on the Palestinian woman, a Palestinian refugee, addressing at that moment the beginning of this genocide that we know today is using lethal guns even to evaporate the Palestinians, and it's a clear understanding for us nowadays that this is again the Nazism more present than ever in the society, and how the Israeli government and the American government have contributed to this genocide. And also, most of the countries are keeping quiet because the new rule we have today as President Trump ruling the planet, affecting all of our countries, and especially countries in which they see a lot of economical interest like Palestine. And I was few minutes ago with you in the gallery, and I told you that actually I made this stone thinking about eyes out of everywhere in America and the world, because this is actually like a plague that is contaminating the whole planet. And this is another exhibition because one of the students, when they came to the tour, she asked me, Alexandra, do you have 3, 4 stones? And I said, no, I have done a series of 40 stelas photographic or stills. And we can see in this exhibition that actually, I included only women, but I photographed also men. And in this exhibition was very important for me to have Eva Kor. Do you know who is Eva Kor? Who is Eva Kor? Yes. And something else that we know about Eva? She emigrated to Terre Haute, where I met her. But before she died, she did something so significant all over the world, and she met the people that has tortured her when she was little, killed her sister because she was one of the twins that Joseph Mengele experimented with, and she met with the Nazis and said, forgiveness is the seed of peace. So that resonated so strongly on my brain, on myself, because Colombia is going through a process of peace with many actors in which ones have come and killed mothers, raped mothers, and nowadays the Colombian government is this process of reconciliation. And before that, Eva Kor was already proposing to everybody, we need to reconcile. So it's important that no matter Israel and Palestine can actually be living together. And that was something that we need to live today, this, to remember Eva, to remember the Palestinian people, the current genocide, and all of the polarization that is also destroying the planet. And one of the slabs that are one of the largest, 16 by 20, is the Ukrainian woman. And also, as a woman that relates with many immigrants, I have very important figures, because nowadays we are talking that January, Iran turned the internet all over the world, and we couldn't know what happened, but now we have seen on news, and actually The Guardian, who I worked with in the past, had an amazing article about these 2 days that Iran remained silent, and all of these people, all of these young people were massacred on the streets. And I worked with Parisa K so many years ago from Iran, who actually was tortured and almost beaten to death and emigrated to the states for protection. So Iran has been one of the countries that have been working a lot with refugees, as well as South Africa and the apartheid. Do we know what is the apartheid? What is the apartheid? Native Africans and and it was another way of discrimination, and it was highly used as a genocide to kill the Africans in Africa, that now President Trump is saying that Africa should be ruled by the white people, the Afrikaners, and they can be legitimized, but not the real South African people. And being Colombian also, I made this stone about Colombia, a woman that looks beautiful, that is smiling, and actually this stone by accident got cracked in the middle, and it was so important, I glued it back. I didn't the best job, but it's really addressing the way I feel as Colombian after so many years going through war after war, and the worst war that we can have nowadays is the war in drugs. And I will be talking later about this. And because of that reason, I'm kind of moving you throughout my artwork. Actually, since the beginning I started to others, I made this important book saying that death was made in Colombia by paramilitaries groups. And at that moment, I traveled to Colombia in 2011, and I was I was inquiring to people on the streets, who are these indigenous? Do you know that? Do you know? And my dad was like, I'm clueless, maybe from Peru. So actually I went and encountered in that trip, I met the Embera people who questioned me. Hey, Alexandra, you wanted to take photographs of us? Well, we don't want you to come here and exploit us with your photography or your articles. If you come and we let you in, it's because you have to commit to us and make a commitment to the community, which has signified for me to work since 2011 with the Embera. She became the signature of all of my exhibitions in Colombia. She became my translator, a girl of 8 years old that was constantly even raped into Bogota. So I enjoy the companion of Rosita, and due to Rosita, I was able to travel to the deep jungle in Colombia, where I photographed all of these communities of the Embera people displaced by the armed conflict coming from the ongoing war on drugs. And the title of this article is Trapped. They are trapped by landmines. So it was very significant. And moreover, later when I discovered that over 4,000 Emberas have been displaced by the construction of the Urra hydroelectric that nowadays have contaminated the community with mercury contamination, methyl mercury contamination. As you see here in this article I published, is a bad translation because it's an article in Spanish, methyl mercury, the poison that is killing the Embera indigenous people in Colombia. And that was a very long project. I'm still working in that project, and I'm still with the leader going to explain the communities about this contamination and what they have to do. But along this, because my projects start kind of intertwining, I cannot really follow one project at the time. And at moments, I have to stop the project because it goes, sometimes things, they don't go well. Sometimes I cannot access the communities, right? Sometimes I've been actually detained by the guerrillas group in Colombia for a whole day. And those things are things that I take seriously, like a threat in my life, a threat of my family. And then in 2016 to 2017, I remember I was in Colombia working with the Emberas when I heard about this amazing movement, the movement that the water protectors created in Colombia. Who are the water protectors? The Mni Wiconi in Lakota language? Well, they were the Lakotas, the indigenous Lakotas, from a standing rock. And that article is one article that I work with, a journalist reported, Steve Cash, in which we were telling throughout his writing my investigation in North Dakota of the Dakota Access Pipeline that actually made this construction in a corner or a standing rock and was already threatened with pollution, the Missouri River. And the indigenous stood up and create this movement called the Water Protectors. And we see that, I don't know how to, okay, we see that in the first photograph, protect the water. And we see this amazing photograph. So many people, indigenous, I even met priests, I met people from all over the world coming to support the water protectors, to protect the first element, the most important element that we cannot live without, water. And amazing how the camps, they were working like amazing, beautiful cities. And because I kept seeing these beautiful teepee houses in which I stay in many of my trips, and I met La Donna Alar, the person who actually started inviting people, hey guys, come, settle here in the Ocheti Sacowen camp or the Rosebud camp and support us, because we are defending the water and the Missouri River that is one of the major river supply in America. And I have La Donna in the last day in which everything got bad because Obama had rerouted and everybody have left the camps, but immediately 2017, January 6th, Trump sat down in power and he said, Dakota Access Pipeline is not going to be rerouted, the construction continued, and everything went on. And at that moment, I just met La Donna, and she was like, Mni Wiconi, Mni Wiconi. She was yelling from above, saying, water is life. So please say, Mni Wiconi, right now, Mni Wiconi. Don't be afraid. Again, harder, Mni Wiconi. I cannot hear you. Mni Wiconi means in Lakota language, water is life. And she was saying that because indigenous, can you believe from the conquistadors' time to today, they have faced all types of exploitation in their land. So she was not thinking we got defeated. She was thinking we won this battle. And she asked me, Alexandra, I said, what I can do for the Lakotas? And she said, something that you can do is keep talking about this. Don't let the memory, the success of this movement to die. And 2 years after, she died from cancer. And I was able to talk to her before she died. And actually, I was lecturing at DePaul University, and she has been there, and Northwestern, DePaul, and the other universities have awarded La Donna for her work she did in the camps. And then I wrote this article, and I did the photography. I'm sad that many of the students that they were in the tours, they are not here, but they were asking me, Alexandra, what you mean? And I said, I mean that I do a bridge. I do a bridge in the documentary photography with the artistic, and I use all of the resources, all of my talents to keep going, keep telling people, making people aware of my investigations. And I don't need to translate this title because it's translated by itself. It's written in Spanish, but we know what it's saying, the Sioux versus Trump. And here, this beautiful woman that is here, and she is actually standing against a teepee, is the same one that I follow for so long. And we are all down with goggles, and people in Colombia is asking me, that photo is so weird, right? It's so uncanny. And I'm like, no, we are down, afraid of the government that was on top. Here we can see it in this photograph, that they were actually throwing water at us in such a temperature. And so that is why we have that clothes. And that is Jake, one of my best platinum palladium. This is a photographic process of the 19th century. And I was just walking with my 4x5 camera, waiting to have a moment with her. And I think this was so intimate. Behind her was one of the tipi houses that I kept thinking they are so beautiful. And just the wind came and she just looked at me. It was not posed. I was just ready in the moment. And she represents everything that I wanted. She represents the culture, the bravery. So many times she was arrested in the front lines, fighting like a water protector. And then I came the day before, just the day before, the troops got into the camps and arrested over 60 water protectors and an elder. And I was so lucky because these Norths, it was so hard in North Dakota. If we think that the weather is rough here, it can get rougher there. And the temperatures were awful, the snow and everything was melting. And we had in this dome the previous year an amazing celebration, obviously not Thanksgiving celebration, but celebration of all of the water protectors being there and eating buffalo meat and buffalo soup and fried bread that is traditionally from the Lakotas. And I was able to caught the reflection and have the tipis there standing regardless. Trump sent the troops and everything. So that was amazing. Actually became symbolic. Most of my photos are people portrait, and this came like the best portrait of the situation and saying, we are here. They won. The Indigenous won. They were here. They put again something in the memory on the history. And it's incredible because I came to Indiana and I thought Indiana will have Indigenous, but there are not Indigenous in Indiana. And then being there, I was very lucky that Jared came, and I was like, wow, I have never seen along so many trips somebody wearing a traditional outfit. And he was not only with the capote and the hat that traditional for the Lakotas, he brought the buffalo medicine from Yellowstone to the water protectors. And then I learned, the buffaloes were not completely exterminated. The Indigenous have been protecting them. That is why they are not exterminated. And it's so sad that he's not here, Elias, right? But Elias and I, we participated at the Geikelor, and I was able to photograph him. He looks so beautiful in this image, looking at the water protectors and this exhibition in which actually I wanted to find something more meaningful than the 4x5 images of platinum palladium. I reprinted on the canvas, I enlarged them, and I was trying to represent what I saw on the camps. What I saw on the camps were the tipi houses. And then obviously I want to tell the story of how the Lakotas were another genocide as the genocide of the Indigenous in America, but a genocide that was obviously looking for the gold, and the Indigenous made this robe for my exhibitions. And this is in Colombia. I went in the robes. I printed there in the Lakota language, translated into Spanish, because it's important also to include the language as an element. Yes, come in. Yes, come in. Thank you. It's important to include the language as part of my exhibition. And it was amazing that in my last exhibition, I found somebody, actually a water protector that came to see this exhibition, and she's wearing a hoodie saying, "Stand with a standing rock." And that was amazing. She was seeing the water protectors. But because Indigenous have been taking all of the elements, taking care for centuries, obviously I needed to work with the sacred plant that I mentioned in the gallery, Coca. Coca is a plant that is proper from Colombia, Venezuela, proper of the America, and it's a plant that has completely twisted. And here with Steve Cash, we wrote this article, and I in the previous, I didn't show you, but with the water protectors, I was standing here, I'm chewing coca with this elder and learning, because the only way to learn about this plant is start understanding that we need to pay respect to this plant and get the knowledge that the indigenous provide for us. So I was sitting down with the elder chewing coca and understanding these men and women that are called Tegualas or traditional doctors. And then obviously this is a photo of Kyle and Jackie, thank you. I was looking for Kyle, but I cannot see it right now. And they, especially Jackie, came and said, "What is this? I wanted to know what is this." And he said, I came and I said, "This is the Coca plant. Consider the divine leaf of immortality for centuries by the indigenous of the Andes." But when we think about coca, the only thing is about a plant by legislation, by international legislation, prohibited. And in Colombia, over 15 years of fumigation with glyphosate to destroy the plant, venerated, that the indigenous have demonstrated that it doesn't have any addiction. One thing is the coca plant, and one thing is the cocaine. And this was so important to come and meet in the Andes in Colombia, this school called Wasac Quewech, where the little kids that we see, they go there to be educated on the ancient coca rights that are medicinal. And we see here in this, in this photograph, first, this is a class in which the kids are learning how to pick the plant. Because when they are using the plant for cocaine, the people who actually is doing that, they are all with bandages because they go and scrape the plant. So we see that they are what we call it scrapers. So they are scraping the plant for the production. But notice here, the kids are delicate, picking up from the plant and taking care of something that the indigenous NASA of Colombia and the traditional doctors are giving to little kids 4, 5, and 12 in daily basis, which can prove we can talk in this moment with this project about decolonization. Per one is an untraditional system of education. Per second, if the little kids are chewing with the approval of parents and grandparents, the leaf, do you think is equal the effect of cocaine? It's not, right? And it's amazing because the kids that go to this school will actually keep alive the knowledge from generation through generation. And we see the photo here better. We see here Avelino de Teguala. We see, I think Gerson is about 4 here, and we see his big chic. And then, the traditional doctor is passing just a stone that they get from the river, and they put it in fire, and they scrape that, and they add it to enhance the potency. Yes?
Deberías hablar del modo que se hace la coca y la droga.
I'm going to do that. And then my son is asking me, but Mom, talk about the difference coca and cocaine. Coca leaves are a plant that in the 70s, the people at Yale and Harvard realized in the middle of the 70s, I think was 74, realized that the plant, observing the plant, has all of the nutrients, more in calcium for the diet of the indigenous of the Andes, has enzymes that actually process only potatoes, because when the conquistadores came here, enslaved the indigenous with the coca plant and stole the Inca empire of the coca leaves. And by then, we were not talking about cocaine, that actually was the perversion of the white men. In the 1860s, when scientists separated and created hydrochlorate, which is cocaine. And then by separating that and by adding gasoline, brick, acid, that's what people consumes when they are consuming cocaine. But when the kids are chewing the coca leaves that are toasted and in a process of respect with the plant, they are nurturing the body. Actually, it's so powerful. They can nurture the body, the mind, and it's totally vice versa of the concept of cocaine. And one thing is the cocaine, and one thing are the coca leaves. And we see here the traditional doctor in the last step in which he is harmonizing this, right? Is all about the harmonization that is not individual, is in the community. And actually, in few moments, Juliana, who is the assistant of the Teguala, is going to be speaking to us, and you will have the opportunity to ask questions. We couldn't get the video here, but she is in Colombia, in the Andes. She is, as we see here, chewing coca and using another ancestral plant called cabuya. And is this one, consider the hair of Mother Earth. So she's actually working a lot on all of the things that the NASA used, and that was my exhibition at Aurora Photo Center. And here we have the version of the traditional doctor, Tessa, who is actually dripping the coca leaves to tell Mother Nature, now we are going to cut a leaf of cabuya plant. Can we do that? And then we see here producing the paper that you saw in the gallery and that you have seen in these photographs. So the kids, I took for years, even during the pandemic, I took 2 workshops to the community for them. They gave me all of the knowledge of this is medicinal, this is spiritual, come here, learn with us, take photograph of us. But what I promised to the Embera long ago that I will develop projects with them, I really accomplished with the NASA. With the Embera, couldn't really accomplish a long project because I did so many different things, from doctors, filters, name it, blankets. My son was like about 8 years old, 9, when he was collecting blankets for the Embera. But here, it became a very educational project. Here we are with this bioartist, very famous, Sandra Diaz, that actually used coca leaves to make leather, to make infinite things, that threads that you could do with the coca leaves. And the indigenous actually made flour, make the tea for high altitude, many other things. So we see here the kids making the paper, working in collaboration, and we see how little they are, right? Making the paper that actually we use for printing those. And then, as you know, because this exhibition is entitled The Last Tree, so in 2019, I started traveling to the Brazilian Amazon rainforest, because the Amazon rainforest is shared by 9 countries, and Brazil, who is the largest portion of the rainforest with 64%, was one of the first that in 2019 we could see on the news that the fires were there. And this article was published later by itself. It reads, the Mura Protectors of the Amazon Rainforest. And then I came to the deepest of the Amazon rainforest, where since the 70s, as you can see by this drone photograph, since the 70s, the Trans-Amazonic Highway is being constructed primitively. Even nowadays, and deforestation has been affecting a lot the Mura people. But I told you, when I travel, I go with my large format camera, my digital, my cell phone. But the Mura, when I talk to them about the project, says, yes, Alexandra, the project is that you bring us during COVID, you bring us a drone because other photographers have come here, and we wanted to demonstrate to the Brazilian government what is happening in our communities. So by then I have never have used a drone. That is one of the few pictures I took while I was instructing this ancestral community, the Mura, who has been facing in the Amazon rainforest from the beginning deforestation, and they were able to succeed. These people defeated the Jesuit missionaries. Yes, you understood me, the Jesuits, right? That actually were exploiting at that time when the Portuguese conquistadors came, the cacao trees. And nowadays, they are actually in daily basis seeing those fires set because the rainforest is dry. Nobody can, the forest cannot catch on fire by itself. But if somebody, a big mega project is behind, obviously the fires can be set. And nowadays, what is been happening is the Amazon rainforest is turning into a carbon dioxide emitter and is supposed being the largest tropical rainforest that actually is being protecting us, sequestering all of this carbon dioxide and actually protecting the out layer of the planet, like protecting us even from the sun. And maybe you don't know, but the Amazon rainforest have rivers that travels like clouds and drop in certain areas to regenerate the cycle into the vast extension of the rainforest. And see here, we have a photo that I'm so thankful went to Samantha's hands, in which the spiritual leader is hugging the tree, right? But remember, I'm always in a process, constant process of thinking my images. And then this was a WordPress photograph, and I was so happy that I was not finally selected, but it was a finalist. And then that was the moment I could say to the audiences that the Amazon is turning into a savanna, and as is demonstrated here, a carbon dioxide emitter. And this photo was so important. I was looking at this photo more in journalistic, and I was very surprised when this photo was awarded at the Soap Art Museum as Best in Show. And these three images in the year before. So for 2 years in a row, I was awarded as Best in Show, and the curator said, Alexandra, people is thinking that is something, that I have something special with you. Please don't apply more. Because it was 2 years in a row and coincidental with my Coca exhibition there. And we have these people here that brought me to this area because these gigantic orange boulders, actually, they are the ones that they've been using for the construction of the Trans-Amazonic Highway. And then I put this photo of one of the jungle leaders. Actually, she taught me how to use the arrow, how to actually be walking barefoot in the jungle. And what the Mura, they do when I'm saying they are protecting effectively the rainforest is not just nice words that I'm using. They go with the arrows and remove from the trees those false plaques that are put by the big people that has committed fraud to get the license and to cut everything into the rainforest, from the most expensive timber to the ones that they could regenerate. So they do a lot. They go there and spend days into the jungle just removing those plaques and any signs that they can see around. And with this gesture, Watacarepe in their language, in Guaracapai language, they are saying no more to exploitation, no more to colonization. And it's so important how you title, how you put your photographs, your artwork there. And I didn't need it. I believe the title of colonization because she is divided into the imposition of the religion. We can read here the Bible, but I wanted to reiterate the message because I remember one missionary came to my exhibition and he said, I'm so happy the indigenous love the Christianity that we took there. And I said, you are wrong. She's saying with this photo that, guys, you kill our communities to impose this religion. So made me aware that I needed to put the title of colonization. And I was so happy that look my photography as a tool to address this colonization that comes from long time. And then this was like, you can see I don't have my boots, right? And I was like, can I keep at least my socks? Yeah, and then it's amazing. Handesh Wakana is using my camera and with my 4x5. And she's the leader that actually taught me how to walk. And we are there, she's using my cell phone to take that photograph. And here they are there with the drone and in a kind of pose photograph because we were like next to a bad fire. And I said, just stay there. And Wakana, after I instruct him and I instruct the main leaders, he started instructing his son. And then in previous exhibitions, their photographs have been there. And for this exhibition, and being very wise, used the videos. She selected some of those videos that you can still see at the gallery on the TV. And that created, as was written in the review by Kerry, something really special and very emotive as part of the work done by the Indigenous. And here, those are amazing photographs. I couldn't believe how, with few instructions and my primitive Portuguese and everything, they did it better than me. I remember the first classes, I was going to run and I couldn't land it. And it was landing in a river and a Mura has to jump and save it because I almost destroyed it. And those are amazing images. And please don't take me lightly. They gathered all of these evidences. And when Jair Bolsonaro, that today is in prison and in a facility, incarcerated, and I'm so happy for, regardless, Mr. President Trump has done a lot of efforts to get him out. He will remain in prison because since 2019 to nowadays, he actually made the Amazon rainforest the big industry for meat that we consume here in America, as America #1 exporter of meat coming from the Amazon rainforest. Like the worst movie ever. We are going to lose the Amazon rainforest, the one that we need to breathe, just because we wanted to eat cow meat. That is so sad, right? The worst movie. And then we see more the kids using my camera. And then they were so amazing. Look at these amazing photographs they took of my work, of me, sorry. And that was amazing because actually, this is in Rondoña. They are in the third state. They are not the first state of deforestation, that is Pará. And so in the road coming, just leaving the airport, that was close to the airport. Can you imagine deeper in the jungle? Well, you already have seen the images. And then, because I'm in this ongoing situation, I cannot stop. I thought with the Mura, I gave my best. And Colombia was closed because of the pandemic. So I went all of these years traveling from America with the drone and with the phone and trying to get to know them. In between, I start hearing about this indigenous called here. The name is here are called the Nukak. And that really became symbolic because the Nukak were the last, they were considered once the last nomadic tribe of Colombia. They are the elders who have been living forever in the Amazon rainforest. And I really wanted to be working with them. And this article is part of me being a Pulitzer Center grantee. And this reads, the fight of the Nukak family to restore the Amazon rainforest. Although the deforestation of the Colombian Amazon keeps going on, and Nukak Indigenous has been able to restore the Amazonic biomass. Regardless, they are trapped by cattle ranchers, illicit crops, illicit logging, and armed actors in Colombia. And here me in the grantee Pulitzer page, because I just got that in January, after I did with a Colombian colleague 2 articles. This one on our own territory, Colombia last nomadic tribe fights to return home. And we see this elder that we are going to communicate today with, that actually most of his life he was living traditional lives until they were run out of the Colombian jungles by, guess what? The war on drugs. And then there are hunters, and he has restored with his knowledge their reservation, the Nukak reservation. Over 15,000 hectares have been deforested for cattle ranching and for illicit Coca crops. And we see the family, this beautiful family that has done the restoration, and now how they are using the streets and feeding from that, and went back to traditional life. So this is so important. And beyond that, always thinking about to get the essence, I start working with Jedeco, who is here, taking a lot of photographs, because in the process of the restoration, he was communicating with the spirits of the trees. And that is the piece that we have here in the gallery, one of my first pieces. And it was so amazing because he was talking to the Tacuejis, the spirits of Mother Nature, saying how I can proceed with this in order to do the restoration. So I took that photograph over 2.5 years when he was at the beginning of this process. And this, obviously, you know where is this photo coming from. And that was a full challenge. It took me not only 15 years of experimentations I have done with this process, liquid emulsion, but it took beyond everything. And don't believe that was easy. The hand rejected me twice. And even Aurora Forocena reject me to be able to do this piece. And regardless, whatever, I knew M was coming and I wanted to have this piece done. And I make my best effort in my small photo lab, and with my assistant and my partner and best friend, Tad Stokes, I was able to produce this 6-foot piece that you have seen. And so on, I've been producing other pieces because the idea of this piece, entitled The Guardians of the Rainforest, is to have the obelisk that will be the standing piece surrounded by other pieces that I wanted to put in those pedestals that you saw inside there. What time is now? Yes, and I'm running, and this is the last image that we are seeing from the Nukak, and this isn't a small version, but it will go in one of those. I wanted to do 6 foot, and it's the elder teaching to the baby inside the forest the knowledge of the forest. And saying so, we are going to contact first Juliana. She is in this moment, as I told you, waiting for us. Her daughter actually is at the hospital, but she really wants to talk to us. So we are calling Juliana. Juliana Illo from the NASA Indigenous communities who will be talking to me in Spanish. I'm going to translate. And if you wanted to ask a question to Juliana, you can ask her. and I'm going to remind you, she's one of the NASA Indigenous that works in the Wasatch School. So let's wait a second. And I'm going in between to back up so you know who you are talking. And I'm sorry I went kind of speedy, but it's a lot of images to be talking. She is Juliana. Okay, I will try again. And if I can get in communication with her right now, I will call the NUCAC. Juliana? Eucha Juliana, I'm speaking to her in NASA language. Sorry, in NASA language. Juliana. Macbeth. Coming Chimtao. She's just telling us, hi, how are you? How are you doing? Nice to be there. Juliana, I already presented the project SH Coca. Please, por favor, dinos. Espérate un momento. ¿Para qué ha servido los talleres? Espérate un momento, Juliana. Voy a hablar en inglés. I am telling her in English that please talk to us because she has few minutes. She's at the hospital with her daughter. The benefits of what has been good with the workshops I brought to there. Juliana, por favor, nos puedes hablar de los talleres y si quieres, preséntate.
Bueno, muy buenas noches. Mi nombre es Juliana, que hago parte del proceso de la educación propia. Y pues para contarle en cuanto al hermoso taller que hemos recibido de doña Alexandra en el Centro de la Educación Propia, teniendo en cuenta que es un taller muy importante que se dio con los padres de familia, dinamizadores y los niños.
Espérate un momento, espérate. She's saying good night, good to be here. Marisa, if I forget something, or Gabe, if I forget something, remind me. Thank you so much for the workshops that Alexandra brought to us in the making the handmade paper with coca leaves and recycled paper. The parents, the teachers, all of the community participated. Go ahead. Sigue hablando, Juliana.
Y pues teniendo en cuenta que la hoja de coca es algo medicinal y se pidió permiso al Tegualas, ¿no? Para utilizar material algo que fue tan beneficiado en el programa, teniendo en cuenta que ese papel de la hoja de coca fue un bonito taller donde se asombra todo el equipo de dinamizadores, donde se utiliza el papel de hoja de coca, se utiliza plasmando una imagen muy significativa dentro de ese papel de la hoja de coca.
Espera, por favor, voy a traducir. So as far as I remember, because she said a lot of things, is like the important is all of these people came to work with these sacred leaves, and it was very significant for the community. Marisa, I'm missing something, Gabe? No? And she talks about the importance of using the coca. You too, tú también. The importance of use the coca because it's so sacred. Sigue hablando.
Teniendo en cuenta con la orientación del Teguala y dado permiso desde la parte espiritual donde se realiza ese taller. También teniendo en cuenta que los padres de familia, pues algo de que ese taller fue muy significativo, que les quedó gustando y nos mandaron enviar ese papel junto con los niños, ya que fue plasmado una imagen muy significativa. Entonces ellos querían como tener de decoración en las casas.
Un momento, por favor. She's telling us that after we did all of this paper, right, it followed another workshop in which I was not involved. And they decided transferring images of the little kids that they were participating, and every kid took the paper to home to show it to everybody. Go ahead, sigue. Sigue, por favor.
Sí, donde los padres, familias, pues ellos quieren de nuevamente ese taller y tener ya hacer una hoja de coca, pero plasmado en cuadros más grandes, para tener pegados a fotos de cada familia que ellos tienen en sus casas.
Un momento, por favor, un momento. She's telling us that people is asking again for this workshop. And maybe you will be asking, what do you mean? You already took 2 artists there along so many years. Well, it happens that in order to make simple paper, you need blenders. And because in the area where coca leaves should rule, reigns, or is the king or reigns marijuana that is not proper to the area. So many indigenous are forced to crop a lot of marijuana, and coca is not anymore in use. But there are 2 different plants, and these indigenous, they don't agree to use this plant smoking marijuana, or they accept the medicinal uses with ointments and things like that. So they are asking for more workshop, but the blenders have been destroyed because in the area they need the lights for the hydroponic crops in marijuana, with marijuana. Do you understand what is happening, no? Marijuana reigns in the area. It's illegal in Colombia. There is a war in marijuana in Colombia, but many of the products that we have here came from there. All of the medicinals, all of the CBD, all of the ointments. What the indigenous, they don't do with marijuana are edibles. They think that is the perversion of the plant, right? But what she's saying is they are asking for more blenders in order to keep producing the paper, because the electricity goes up and down every moment there, and they cannot produce more paper. Ya les conté de las licuadoras que no tienen y de lo que quieres decir. ¿Quieres decir algo más del taller del papel de hoja de coca?
Sí. También quiero comentarles que los padres de familias se hizo una pequeña evaluación sobre el taller, ¿no? Y donde los padres de familia quedaron muy asombrados. Primero, en cuanto a la parte energética, que pues Alexandra tuvo muy pasiva para enseñar con esa amabilidad, y teniendo en cuenta que faltaban materiales en el centro donde se reúnen los niños y las dinamizadoras, se faltaba material, entonces donde Alexandra recolecta y aporta en cuanto a las licuadoras y otros materiales que se requería sobre el taller. De esta manera se hizo un bonito trabajo, y pues los padres de familia están muy agradecidos, tanto las autoridades y dinamizadoras, porque eso taller se comentó a las autoridades también.
Momento, it's too much. It's mucha información. Well, she's talking that people is still talking and asking to continue the production of the paper, but the situation I mentioned is limited. Think this is third world country, and to get a blender is crucial for them. And regardless, I have sent it more blenders or more money for blenders that they can get there. The problem has been that the electricity there, but the parents make an evaluation and all of the community, and they wanted to be in the production of the paper. Juliana, ya hablamos del papel. ¿Quieres hablar del otro taller que hicimos? Juliana, we talked a little bit of the Coca workshop paper, the Coca paper. Do you want to talk about the other workshop we did? Con el proyector, with...
Sí. Con ese proyecto, pues uno que fue beneficiario tanto la dinamizadora fue utilizando el material, donde nos dio un taller cómo se utilizaba el proyector, porque las dinamizadoras pues no sabíamos cómo utilizar, cómo proyectar, cómo utilizar los materiales que nos estaban beneficiando al centro Huasaco.
Espérate un momento. What is happening is, I took the workshop of how to make this paper, but also, as you can see by the photos, the school is very humble, right? And then they lack many things. So I took a projector in which I educated the instructors and the Teguala, the traditional doctors, how to use it as a tool for education with the kids. And at the same time, that was an opportunity for me to give all of the material to the community. This is something very important in this practice, to give to the community their images, regardless, no matter if they don't have how to plug the USB or a computer is important, and I gave not all of them, but many images printed in color, and the other images, they have it in Coca paper or in the originals. So that is what she's talking. I took this workshop with other tools for them to continue the education. So I wanted to ask, do you have any question for Juliana? Yes, Estefan. Espérate un momentico, te van a hacer una pregunta. Ujú. Ajá. Juliana, dame un momentico, es que tenía el teléfono abajo. La pregunta que te está haciendo un profesor, repítela, por favor. Repite. ¿Por qué les gustó hacer el papel o por qué fue importante hacer el papel? ¿Sí, Estefan? ¿Por qué? Why
Sí.
was important to make this paper? ¿Por qué, Juliana? Why?
La importancia de hacer el papel de la hoja de coca fue algo muy importante, ya que como centro educativo de la educación no utilizamos otros materiales y nos pareció algo muy natural, algo muy hermoso que podíamos construir nosotros. O sea, en el taller podíamos aprender de Alexandra y podíamos enseñar a los niños. De esa manera vimos la importancia de que como nosotros mismos hacemos el papel de la hoja de coca teniendo las matas en nuestro pueblo.
Espérate un momento. What she's saying is was very, very important. What I try to explain in the presentation is they have the knowledge on even how to cure, how to make a lemonade, even with the coca, how to treat high sickness and many other things, because it's so extend medicinally what they can do. But it was amazing for them. Something that they didn't know is how they could produce paper with the coca leaf. So that for them was very important. It's something that I'm forgetting, Marisa? No? In the translation? No? Yeah, very important to teach the children and to continue doing this, right? So what is your question, Marisa? Mhm. Juliana, la chica que te hace una pregunta quiere saber qué han hecho con el papel y si han podido hacer más papel, ¿cierto, Marisa? What, what they have done with the paper and have they been able to produce more? Ya puedes hablar.
Ese papel de la hoja de coca que le hemos elaborado, pues ha sido algo muy importante y muy significativo, que donde más de utilizar medicinal, pues lo conservamos que con un orgullo muy bonito, teniendo en cuenta que el taller se fue muy significativo, que aprendimos desde nosotros, y pues ya teniendo ese papel de la hoja de coca, plasmamos y lo tenemos guardado para entregar a las familias.
Mhm. Some of that paper they produce, they use it, as I already told you, and some of that other paper they kept it for them, for the families. They consider that very valuable. ¿Y estás produciendo papel? Are you producing paper nowadays? Juliana, están haciendo papel ahora.
Que si estamos haciendo papel en este momento.
Sí, señora.
Sí, teniendo en cuenta que ahí quedaron los materiales que pues se pudo beneficiar como educación propia, ahí quedaron los materiales, entonces hemos elaborado solamente como dinamizadoras, ya que necesitamos una cantidad para pegar imágenes muy significativa, entonces seguimos haciendo ese papel, solamente las dinamizadoras nomás.
Because of the problem I mentioned to you before with the blenders, they are only the instructors are trying to produce the paper, right? Because it's more limited with the blender situation, but they are still doing in the practice, producing paper. Yeah, Steve. Can you talk to me louder? I cannot hear you. Espérate, Juliana. Juliana, espérate, por favor. Juliana, here hay una persona que pregunta si pueden escribir en el papel, si han escrito, si han hecho dibujos, qué han hecho sobre el papel.
Buena pregunta. Sobre ese papel de la hoja de coca hemos plasmado dibujos del color de la naturaleza. Por ejemplo, he utilizado barros o tierras de diferentes colores, teniendo en cuenta que a los niños les encantan utilizar lo del natural. Entonces utilizamos tierras de varios colores, le hemos plasmado en esa hoja de coca, en ese papel de coca.
So what she's saying is that they use natural dyes and they've been painting a lot on this. That is what it feels good to the kids. Personally, I think it's really hard to write on that, Steve. Will be very difficult because it's thick. Yes, representing Mother Nature and using, as she said, natural dyes because all what they use is natural. So they are producing a lot of dyes in order to be drawing a lot on that. Something else you wanted to ask to Juliana, or we could just move to talk to the indigenous from the Amazon rainforest? That's it? Juliana, ¿cómo está la bebé? Pregunta a alguien aquí, ¿cómo está tu bebé?
En este momento, pues voy de nuevamente al hospital, ya que pues debido de la enfermedad que ella tiene, pues la ropita, todo se me escaseó, todo se me ensució. Llevo de nuevamente al hospital llevando unos cambios y pues espero que durante esta noche, espero que pues pueda yo amanecer bien con ella y que pues espero recuperarlo y no pues disculparán de este corto tiempo que le puedo compartir con ustedes.
No te preocupes, Juliana. Muchas gracias. Yo voy a colgar. Muchas gracias, Juliana. Bye. So I told her bye, that is thank you. And as she said, she was in a hurry trying to get more clothes for the baby. She's like 2 years and a half, and she's been in the hospital for 2 days, but she really wanted to participate with us. And then let's see if Jedeko from the Amazon rainforest. Oops, what happened here? Some help, Jason. I don't know why I cannot get the pointer out. I don't know what I did. So in between, so that was Juliana, and now we are calling Jedeko. He's Spanish, and Juliana's Spanish is never going to be perfect. Jedeko has a lot of problems sometimes. And if we cannot get him in touch because it's too late for Indigenous. Right now here is 7:12, and that is the time that Indigenous are already in midnight. You know, they wake up at 4 in the morning as the sun rises in Colombia. At 4:30 a.m. because it's a tropical country. We don't have seasons, and all the year is going to be the same, right? So he's Jedeko, right? The elder. He's about my age, and we have to remember that he until the 80s, when he was like about 15, he was able to live in traditional lives, being nude, forest, being hunting. And he reoccupied the indigenous reservation with their family. That was an amazing move that they did during the pandemic. And they were very afraid that they will die, because when they came in contact in the 80s, most of the population got decimated. But then missionaries, they were already there from Indiana. And they were given tools, so they start going out more in the jungle, and they were at the time hunted. Jedeko, Nejete, Nejete, Jedeku. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Nejete. Yedeco, ya estoy con la gente. Y Yedeco, quiero que nos cuentes, pero voy a hablar en inglés. Recuerda que nos cuentes si la restauración ha ayudado a la comunidad. So my first question for him is how the restoration has helped the community.
Bueno, sí, pues, voy a ver, en Pepa ya nació, el mico ya está como sembrado, ¿no? Mico ya está cagando ellos mismos el pava, guacharaca, ya trajo Pepa donde está oración, donde hay que a la troja.
Espérate. Por favor, un momento. He's saying that the monkey already pooped, right? And that is very important and meaningful. And you will see, or you will be asking, why I have a necklace with monkey tooth? Well, that is part of the restoration. With the restoration, that means versus reforestation, to restore the environment means to be planting the original trees and bushes that were there. So one of their goal, and that is why he's so happy, said the monkey already pooped. We were able to hunt him. And why they gave me this necklace is because when they restore, they only were thinking about the food, the fruits that they supposed to eat, but also to bring back the animals so they will be able to hunt. For the Nukak animals, most of the mammals, including deer, they are sacred. So they don't hunt those animals. They don't hunt deer, they don't have tigers, they don't have dantas. Many animals. It's kind of particular that the only animal that they hunt is the monkey. But to bring back the monkey means to bring back the ecosystem. So that is why he's saying that. Yedeco, y ahora que ya nos contaste que el churuco, que el mico cagó y que ya hay más micos para cazar, cuéntanos qué frutas, qué árboles están comiendo de la restauración. I ask him, please tell us. Un momento, Yedeco. Espérate un momento. I am asking him that he already talked about the importance of the animals, but we wanted to know what trees are using from the restoration to eat. So, cuéntanos. Ahora sí habla.
Bueno, en Churuco comen más, se llama de montaña, en Pepa Amarillo, se llama en Yarawa, guajabo. Eso es que ellos también botan semillas.
Pero, ¿qué árboles están comiendo ustedes? What trees are you eating?
Y nosotros comemos el guajabo, el guanzoco, ¿no? El guanzoco. Guanzoco, no fuera que Pepa Amarillo también caimo, y otros pueden comer de todo. Donde hay camico y comen, y otros también toca que comer.
Y ceje, ¿no?
Otro, ceje, todo eso que otros comen.
Un momento, por favor. Un momento, por favor. So, as you see, photographs. Oh, it's honey from me. As you can see here, this is the ceje. That is a traditional fruit and also another superfood. You cannot eat the ceje. The ceje needs to be eaten, and it looks when it's being after it's make a pulp and everything looks like very oily. So it's more than polyphenols what they can produce from that. And they produce a milk that they call chicha that can replace mother milk from mother breastfeeding. And those are the ones that he's describing there. So I wanted to ask Jedeko, is there deforestation right now? Is there any threat? Jedeko, ¿hay deforestación? ¿Hay amenazas en este momento? Un momento, un momento. Repite. Tedeco, ya puedes hablar. ¿Hay deforestación? ¿Hay amenazas?
Sí, el problema es que la corona a esa gente, porque dijo que por qué cuida la territorio, dijo ellos. Dijo ellos, dijo, ¿para qué usted cuida la territorio? Dijo, él no es de usted, que dijo ellos mismos. Yo les digo, no, pero yo tengo por fruta que comen. Ellos dijo que no saben nada. Dijo así.
¿Y hay amenazas?
Sí. Y después ellos ponen brava, que ellos dijo que va a montar, que yo no sé. Ellos van montando uno.
Un momento, por favor. So he's talking that, as you heard, no? That yes, there are threats, that they don't understand that the Nukak are taking care of the territory that they own, what he calls propio, right? And what about, what about the highway? ¿Qué pasa con la carretera?
En carretera, Tibaca, también problemas que en Corona Blanco dijo que gente campesino dijo que no es carretera ni otra. Dijo, no pisa no ahí, no pisa él, no es de usted no le manda nada, dijo ellos, que usted no paga nada, cambie otro sí, dije ellos.
Un momento.
¿Y por qué?
Un momento, un momento. What is happening is we have a wrong concept of progress. When a road is opening in the Amazon rainforest, it means bad to the community. So what he's trying to address, what he's saying right now is that they don't want this highway, but the colonos, meaning the people that have colonized the area, they want the road. More they get inside, more they can exploit more trees, more they can bring more cattle ranching, they can do more, and they don't want that. ¿Quieres hablar un poquito más de la carretera?
Sí. También el puente donde Juan Carlos dijo que no le ayudaron el puente. Él dijo que va a estar candado y otro no puede bajar en el carro, no deja entrar en el carro, que no pasa por ahí, dijo él.
Espérate. What is it? Oops, I had that by accident. What he's trying to tell us is these cattle ranchers, these people, they are in the indigenous reservation, right? Any breach that they have constructed or anything is affecting them. And Juan Carlos, who is one of the keepers of the area, is telling, no, we need the road. Oh, you need the bridge. You need all of these things. But they don't want it because, as I said, they will get more exploitation. Anybody wants to ask any question to the leader, the elder? No? It's okay. By accident, I hung up on him. But saying so, guys, I will call him in a moment, and I bet he lost also communication. I am wondering if you have any question for me. And it's so hard to do the communication via WhatsApp, especially when there is no video. It's a lot harder. So I wanted to know if you have any question, any comments about my artwork and the pursuit on so many years working with few indigenous communities to be able to create projects. And I have to tell that I was very honored that last year I was, my name, my work was elected by the Louis Roederer in France, the prize on sustainability. When I started working with the indigenous, we were not talking about sustainability, climate change, barely we were using the word global warming. But if you have any question to ask me or something to say, please free, Shelby. Oh, no, less than that. Mhm. Well, first I became acquainted with the communities, and after that it comes a process in which I have stood in canoes, in cliffs. I have avoided rivers full of poop and other things because we had a situation in which over 4,000 indigenous, they were confined by the guerrillas group, and I was with them. And they didn't have restrooms. They were using the river, and me thinking, I'm not going to take a shower in this river. It was humongous, full of poop. I begged them to the indigenous, hey, can you send me in a canoe the other side of the river? And they were like, no, Alexandra, don't go there. And I was like, oh, they don't want me to go there. It's clean. And I said, no, you have to send me there. And they were like, don't go there, don't go there. And I was like, bye, guys. So I went in the canoe, I paddled off the way, and I jump out. And immediately I jump out. I know what they were telling me because ants this big, they crumble of me, make blisters on my body, and I bet all of the indigenous to the day remember because I was like crazy screaming, remove this for me. And they were like, jump, jump. So I ended up jumping in the area where more feces were. Thank God I didn't have my mouth open. But that is part of the funny stories and the reality of being in the rainforest.
We need to let Jason go home. But we can keep the conversation going in a more casual setting. Outside, there's like food and drink for everybody too. So we can keep asking the questions, but let Jason, who helped all this technology happen. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
And I also did want to mention too, you'll see on the table, and I meant to bring one up with me, there's a parking code that you can use for the garages so that you don't pay, courtesy of Great Frame Up. And just so you know, the galleries always have free parking. So just let us know.
Yeah, one thing more, the exhibition got extended. It's going to be here until April 5th. I will come back. I have done many tours with the students. I see why they are not here because of so many tours, but I will keep giving tours. The first week, I will be in Colombia, but I will come back and I will be meeting people if anybody's interested, and keep visit on your own exhibition until April 5th. Thank you. We will be talking, so Jason can go.